All right, we're good to go with YouTube, and UGTV will be starting in a little under 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mariah.
Thank you, Rocky. Live on UGTV.
Well, I guess I'll ask in a stage whisper, Rocky, are we okay to get started?
Give me just a second. I'm looking for the clerk right now.
Thank you.
Rocky, I'm here.
Hi, Carol. We're ready for you.
Okay, doke.
Commissioner, we're ready.
Fantastic. I don't see Commissioner Johnson on yet, but
I did not either.
we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started with this meeting. So this is Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee. And before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom, as well as being present on site. All participants joining by phone or by computer should mute their devices when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 requirements, in-person public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. However, the public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments submitted by email will be included in the record of this meeting. With that said, we want to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee. I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Roll call. Walters.
Here.
Johnson. Townsend.
Here.
Burrows.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here. Thank you so much. I'm not aware of any revisions to the August 31 agenda that was originally published. Carol, were there any revisions after that was published that you're aware of?
No revisions, Chairman.
Fantastic. The next thing we want to do is we have approval of the standing committee minutes from July 6th, 2020.
Move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Walters and a second by Commissioner Townsend. And Carol, if you just go ahead and call a roll on this, please. That's the easiest.
Sure. Roll call, Walters.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, have you joined in?
Yes, I am. Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. Those minutes are approved as submitted. And that takes us on to our committee agenda. We have 2 items on that agenda tonight. The first, both are concerning land bank, and the first is concerning several land bank applications. And for the presentation of this, I'm going to turn it over to Judd Knapp and Catherine Carter.
Commissioner, I've been practicing how to share my screen, so I don't have any problems this time.
I would say your practice has paid off.
Thank you, Commissioner. Today we have 3 applications for your consideration. We have 2 yard extensions and 1 transfer to the transfer from the land bank to the unified government. The first one is 1886 South 6th Street. This is the land bank is recommending this for a yard extension because it is unbuildable by the fact that it is landlocked and it has severe, it is very hilly, basically. The road is platted, but yet there's no road there, and we deem that it would cost too much to put a road there for this lot to be buildable. We shared this information with the Land Bank Advisory Board and had no objections. Our staff advisory team said that they did have some objections that we were adding it to on an unimproved lot and that we should retain it for different developments.
And this is Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. I would say that, after reviewing this with the suggestions by the staff advisory team, as Judd mentioned, the extension of a road would be cost prohibitive as well as due to the topography. And then additionally, as you can see from the slide right before this, the owner of the adjacent lot does own the adjacent lot. So it is in line with the land bank policy.
Do I have any questions on this before I move to the next application?
Well, I'll tell you, Judd, I'm going to have a couple of questions about this and the next item, but why don't you go ahead and present the next item before I ask those?
Okay. The next one is 2726 North 59th Street. It is a landlocked parcel, and it is the Land Bank Advisory Board had no objections, but our staff advisory team said to maybe add this to the park that's just to the south of it. And I reached out to Parks and they said they were not interested in adding this to the park. That's all I have for this one.
So I realized, Judd, a moment ago when I spoke up, I didn't follow my own rules that I read a moment ago. I didn't identify myself when I started talking. So this is Commissioner McKiernan. And it was interesting for me to see here that the staff advisory team has recommended against both of these for the reason that there might be development available on these lots. And yet from the position of the land bank, your position is that while it might be nice to have development, these particular lots don't lend themselves to it without an excessive investment. And therefore it's your recommendation that we just go ahead and make the yard extension transfer as requested. Is that right?
That is correct.
And I will just a point of clarification. These are common by members of the staff advisory team. This is not a recommendation from the entire team. So a pretty significant caveat there.
Okay, so they were discussed and that's not necessarily a unanimous recommendation that we have brought forward for us.
Correct. I think Judd's thought of adding these on is to stimulate potential discussion points by the committee here if you are interested in hearing kind of some of the discussion that was had.
Very good. Commissioner Townsend, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
All right, great. I would like to see some of the information that we used to get in longer form as part of the attachment to the applications, because sometimes that had, or quite often it had, good information about the purpose for which the requester wanted the property that they're seeking, may have other tidbits of information about whether or not they had previously maintained the lot. I would just like to see that added. I like the unbuildable checklist that's here, but I'd also like to see some of the other information included that we used to get in longer form. I found that helpful. I don't have any particular questions that have not been answered on these two items, but I did notice that as I reviewed the packet, we don't have as much information about the applicant and why and history as we do now. I'd like to see that added back. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Catherine or Judd, is 2726 presently, is that zoned ag there?
Find out quickly. Sorry, one moment, bear with us.
I can't imagine the other piece of property being zoned ag, but this particular piece of property could be zoned to ag. And if 2716 wants to acquire it, I just want to see how that'll work. Do we know how many is it a lot or is it acreage? Do we know?
So it is zoned R1 and it is just about 1 acre. It's 1.05 acres. And that
Okay.
whole, yeah, that whole area is zoned either R1 or R2.
Okay, so in 2716, the one that wants to purchase that property is probably about 3/4 of an acre.
Just about a half an acre.
Half an acre. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. One thing that it seems to me as I look at these is that we probably should have some continuing discussion behind the scenes regarding our process. And I think this may tie in somewhat to the item that's coming up next, which is the whole option item. So as we think about updating our policies and procedures, making sure that our procedure is solid, that we have criteria, that we advance enough information for the committee to make a decision, I think we might want to have some discussion behind the scenes, regardless of how these two properties tonight turn out. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Because certainly if we have criteria that suggest that a particular lot is not available for land bank transfer, then it would seem to me that lot should never come forward. So it was a little odd to me that these both came forward to us, but with what looked like a recommendation not to do it on the part of staff. So I found that a little confusing. For the rest of the committee, any other comments or questions? And if there are none, do we have a motion regarding these two properties? And I'm sorry, committee, I'm going to elect to take these two properties separate from the next bundle that are coming, because they are all for one purpose and these two stand alone as yard extensions.
This is Walters. I move to approve these two applications.
Commissioner Burrows second, but I understand that we're going to take them separately, item number 1 and item number 2.
My thought, Commissioner, was, let me find my, My thought was we have two groups of properties here under item number one. Under item number one, we have 2 yard extensions. Those are the 2 that we've just discussed. And then we're going to have a series of 6 transfers from land bank to the unified government, but that's for a different purpose.
Right.
So this will be for the consideration of these 2 yard extensions.
Right. Second, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
okay with that? All right. We have a motion from Commissioner Walters, a second from Commissioner Burrows. Any further discussion among the committee? Carol, I'll ask you, did we have any communication regarding either of these properties?
The clerk's office received no communication from the public.
Thank you. With that, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Roll call, Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. Those have been approved and they will move forward. And now, Mr. Knapp, if you could present to us the second batch of properties that are being considered tonight.
Okay, all right. This is Judd Knapp, the acting land bank manager. We're transferring, we are recommending to transfer 6 land bank lots to the unified government for the Levee project. There are 5 of these lots at 26th and Candace Avenue, and there's 1 lot around 17th and Metropolitan. Get you some bigger aerial views of the area. This is 26th and Kansas Avenue. The total acreage here is 6.23 acres. And the next one is at around 17th and Metropolitan, and it is like 0.17 of an acre. So Sarah White is also here from Public Works to help answer any questions that you might have.
So we have 6 properties, 3 on South 26th, 2 off of Kansas Avenue, and 1 off of South 17th, all to be transferred from the land bank to the unified government so that the unified government has control of them for what purpose related to the Levee project? Is it for staging? Is it for access?
Oh, there's Sarah. Good. Sarah's here. She can answer those questions for you, Commissioner. This is Melissa Sieben. Sarah White is on. I just saw her appear.
Yeah, sorry.
Fantastic, Sarah. If you could, please.
Hi, Sarah White in Public Works Engineering, and I'm the project manager for the Kansas City Levees project. So the KC Levees project is a federally funded project with the Corps of Engineers for 17 miles of levee raise and enhancements along the Argentine, Armourdale, and CID levee units. And part of the responsibility of the UG being a project partner is we acquire the easements needed for this project. In this case, these parcels, we are asking for them from the land bank for the project, for access, laydown areas, and then also in this area, this is a levee raise. So we do need additional land to be able to, when you raise the levee, you also need to widen the levee to keep the same slopes. So the ones closest to the levee there are all, needed for the actual levee raise, and then the 911303 and 911304 are for staging areas to be used.
Sarah, there is a sliver of land in between the 3 that are right up against the levee and then the other 2 that encompass 26th Street. And do we have access? Do we own?
I believe we already own that one in the center, or it is already Cobb Valley Drainage District. Yeah, it's either UG or Cobb Valley Drainage District on that one. And it is, so a lot of these areas will then be turned over to Cobb Valley Drainage District, the ones that are in the levee footprint. We are just doing the acquisition for them, and they will they will take over the O&M of these areas. But not the staging area would then, that would then be able to go back to being usable land.
Okay, that was going to be my next question is, so 151, 800, 801, and 806 might conceivably be, part of those might be taken by the levee project itself. The others would be used for staging and then could be returned to other uses after the levee raise is completed.
Right.
All right.
And I know that one of the concerns was that, you know, why we're not just getting an easement. So on these properties, we are actually the ones that the 15 that start with the 15, we are getting easements on those. We'll go through the process of getting easements on them because of the Corps' requirement is that you have to have an easement for a levee. It needs to have a permanent drainage easement on there. So those will have an easement on there. And one of the other reasons, like for the other two, why we're asking for them just to be, turned over from the land bank to the UG is this project is a 5-year construction project that'll start next spring. And at this time, we don't know their sequence or their phasing of how are they going to start downstream? Are they going to start upstream? So it would be hard to know exactly when they're going to be in this location. So we would, that's why we're just wanting to have it for the full project.
Got it. Judd, could you flip to the next slide that has the South 17th project or parcel on it rather? And I'm intrigued by this one. Is it also for staging?
I believe this one is because it's a landlocked parcel. And it is for access. Okay, because if you look at the top of the picture that's on Judd's screen, that is the, I think it's BNSF railroad tracks there. And then the levee is further north of that. Yeah. So there's no direct access to the levee from this location because of the railroad tracks in between. Right. I believe this is a pump station. Needed for a pump station. Okay, I guess my next question would be, it certainly just looks wooded to me. It doesn't look like there's any mechanical on this parcel, but would our transfer of these properties to the unified government and would their inclusion as staging areas for the project, what impact would that have on those few residents of South 18th Street as it curves down there northward from Metropolitan and then to the west along the side of that parcel? So I'm going to back up. Sorry. I just realized this location is where we are putting in, we have some railroad work because in some of the areas we have to put in stop logs for if there was a flood, we have to put them across the railroads. We have to install the mechanisms to allow for those closure structures to be put in. So this one being adjacent to the railroad is because of a closure structure. Okay, got it. It's intentional then to have it next to the railroad because we need access to those tracks as a part of the bigger project. Yes, and that line that you see drawn there that looks parallel to is where that becomes the railroad's right of way. So that's the reasoning that there will be some stop log mechanics put in there. And then I'm sorry, I missed your second question.
No, that's fine. That explains everything that I need to know.
Okay.
So at this point, I'll stop dominating the conversation and ask the rest of the committee if there are any other comments or questions, and I'll recognize Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Burrows, the question I would have is the fact that these are residential properties that we are butting up against. My comment is, will construction work create dust or a residue that will impact the local residents in that area?
So Sarah White with Public Works Engineering. Yes, one of the things that we'll have as a requirement for any of these areas, if they're up against residential, abutting residential properties or commercial properties, is very strict construction erosion control techniques. The Corps has very strict requirements, and they hold their contractors to them of, spraying down the roads if there's any dust, etc. However, even though this parcel, looks like it's right next to those properties, the actual construction, will be, further away than just right there on the road, because we'll be putting in those apparatuses closer to the railroad.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Does any other member of the committee have a comment or a question for Ms. White or for Mr. Knapp? And I'll ask the clerk, did we receive any correspondence from the public regarding these properties?
No comments were received.
And does any member of the public wish to comment on these particular properties? And I don't see any. So at that point, I would just ask the committee if there is a motion regarding these properties.
Commissioner Johnson moved to approve.
Walters, second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Johnson, a second by Commissioner Walters. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Walters.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. That takes us through item number 1 on our committee agenda and to item number 2. This item is for information only. It is an update on the land bank option process. We got a preview of this last month, and Mr. Knapp is back after some more discussion with the staff to present us an update, but this is again for information only this evening.
Well, this is Judd Knapp, the acting land bank manager. Today I'm going to explain what is an option and why we use it, and the proposed change that we are proposing. What is an option agreement? The main purpose is to hold the property for new construction. It gives the applicant site control so they can create plans. It gives them time to pursue financing and to acquire the necessary approvals. The whole purpose is telling the applicant that the land bank will not sell the property for 1 year. So you can go create those plans. You can go spend your money and be assured that you can build your project when you're done. The agreement is for 1 year. You may not occupy or use the property during that time. You must be a qualified applicant. A qualified applicant is no code violations and you're current on your taxes, and you have to maintain the property during this one year period. For the land bank to give the property to complete the option, we need like a summary of the plan, architect or engineered plans, a building estimate, and proof of funds that cover your building estimate. Here is where the due diligence period is. It's the whole planning process of building without actual building. What is our proposed change here? is the old or the existing process, land ownership was transferred in the beginning. And with the new process, it's transferred after the due diligence period is completed. And the main purpose for that is to make sure that there's no problems that come up that prevent development from happening. Let's say like a house was going to be built and we use the existing process and sign the property over to them, but they found out that the old house that was demoed on that lot is buried underneath that lot, and it would cost way too much for them to build their house, and they walk away from it. How do we get that property back? With the existing process, we would have to have a lawsuit to get the property back. But with the new proposed changes, we would just cancel the option, and we would have the property available again the next day. So here's a little like timeline of when the property would be deeded. The old process, it's deeded after they identify the lot and they have interest in it. And then the new process is when it's deeded is when they have their plans, their cost estimates, and their financing, and they are ready to build. The proposed change to the process before the option agreement is signed, the land bank will get approval for development. That means coming to this board and getting approval for it. This ensures that the applicant is approved to build. We would really hate if they spent all of their money in getting plans and then we tell them that they're not approved to build. So that's the main reason we're making this change. The land bank retains control during the due diligence process, and the land bank can easily get the property back if the development fails. The land bank will present the current options we have on September 28th. I believe we have like 8 options that are signed currently, but we have like 29 in total that could be like that need to be approved. We will keep this approval conditional until the option stipulations are confirmed. That is, like they turn in their plans and their proof of funds and their building estimate. That pretty much sums up what I have to say about the option. Do I have any questions about?
Judd, this is Commissioner McKiernan again, and certainly, you know, I'm going to have a couple of questions. So first of all, the land bank will present the current options for approval on September 28th. Unpack that a little bit more for me. Is that this new process is going to be brought to the full commission? Is that a regular commission meeting on the 28th, by the way?
I believe that's this.
It's the next it's the next neighborhood and community development.
Okay, so I'm sorry, that's our next standing committee meeting.
Right.
And at that time, okay, all right. So good, that's good to know. Thank you so much for that. Now, before an option is created, before this process is even contemplated, wouldn't the applicant have had to gone through all the staff approval before that they're even considered for having an option for a year's time?
No, so this is Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. So the whole idea of a option is because all of this process, the planning process, is an expensive process, both time and money. So this is how we work with larger developers. You have some assurances that if everything goes according to plan, you kind of have reserved this property. You know that the unified government will not sell it out from under you. So really the idea with the option is that a person they pay a fee so that they have kind of put that, have said that they are going to work diligently to move forward through the process. That's why we give them a very specific length of time. They get 1 year. And then that is their time to go look for financing, get their architectural drawings, all of that. And then once all of that is done, then the actual transfer would be made.
I'm sorry, I didn't explain myself. That's perfectly clear to me that's why that buffer is in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of even considering them to build, we had two parcels tonight in item number 1, where there was still maybe a little bit of disagreement and discussion about whether or not that was an appropriate use of that parcel. So I'm assuming before they ever got this option, that we would have confirmed that the use they are proposing for that parcel is appropriate. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right.
A much shorter response. Sorry about that.
Good. Okay. And then finally, Mr. Knapp, you said that they can't exercise their option for 1 year. That seems to me odd. If I have an option and I can line up everything I need to line up in 6 months, are you going to make me wait 6 more months before I can get started?
No, if you have all your documents together within a month, we will deed it over to you. That's why we wanted to come to you first and get it approved. So once we have all the documents together, we could deed the property over to them.
Perfect. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp, you're going to have to unpack a lot more from me, as Commissioner McKiernan said. Could you go back to the slide that says, what is an option agreement? That will help me with this. Okay. And the first one, purpose. My concern is that I not hear from constituents who are saying, I want to buy property out of the land bank, and I'm told it's on hold. A lot of constituents that I've talked to still have kind of I'll say sour taste in their mouth about what we did a year ago, trying to organize certain areas that were related to the Northeast Master Plan. And that holds. So if you could distinguish for me how this is not that. Is there a minimum size lot? How would this impact what we just did for someone who wants merely a yard extension? Let me stop there with those questions.
Yeah, Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. So there's a pretty significant difference between what we had been utilizing the hold area, which was a very large area in most cases for either a particular developer or, in the case of the Northeast Area Master Plan, as we were going through that process, wanted to keep that on hold until we finish the policy. So anything that is currently on hold predates the change in policy about a year ago. And we're actually kind of reviewing those and seeing exactly what is still on hold, what needs to be removed. And you may all see some of those coming forward in the coming months. But what this really does is it really tries to keep it very focused for a private person who's interested in building a house, or a developer who's interested in building a couple of houses, keep them very focused and on a very quick time frame. When we had the larger hold areas, a lot of times those had no expiration date. The Northeast Area Master Plan was a different one, so that is no longer a hold area, that is open, and we're happy to receive applications. But the goal is you have to pay a non-refundable $100 if you're interested in residential. So we're really trying to keep this very focused on people who are serious about actually investing and building on a land bank property, rather than someone who is kind of interested in maybe somewhere down the road and just wants to keep it off the for sale sign. So.
Okay, so there is, I guess, as a basic criteria, it has to be a minimum size, a buildable lot, I guess would be the best term. And why is the $100 non-refundable if, as I think Mr. Knapp gave an example, of a situation that may arise during that due diligence period. Why is the $100 not refundable?
Again, we feel like that's an appropriate cost to separate someone who may be serious about looking into a property versus kind of more prospecting. We do have other costs that could get waived down the road when you're actually building your house, but we feel like that really, especially when we hear from a developer who's interested in 20 lots, if you say, well, you have to pay $100 for each lot to put it on, to get an option, they're more likely to actually whittle that down to what they're really serious about looking at today. We feel if that was refundable, then they just wouldn't worry about it and they just try to get an option on a whole ton of lots. So we're trying to really weed out folks who aren't serious about building.
Okay, all right. To the due diligence period. The due diligence period then, is that the year period of time from the time the buildable lot is identified to either the conclusion of the paperwork and whatever else needs to take place that allows the builder to go forward, or they find out they can't? That's the 1 year period, the due diligence we're talking about, right?
Correct.
And so this new, this revision says that title on the property will be at the conclusion of that period or when all the paperwork is done, as opposed to when a prospective builder identifies the lot. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. There's another note. On the agreement, it was back to that first graphic that we showed that said purpose agreement. Now, maybe I misunderstood Mr. Knapp. In that 1 year period, the prospective owner builder cannot occupy or use the property, but they must maintain the property. That's what I understood him to say. I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, so that really just means that they can't start building on the property until they've gone through that. They won't have owned, they don't own it yet. But during that time, they need to mow the grass, make sure there aren't, if there's illegal dumping, getting that taken care of, that kind of thing.
Okay, I understand now. And of course, this would apply, the current as well as the proposed, should it go through, applies to not just one district, but the entire county.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I think that those answers clarified it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for bearing with us as we're kind of working through this new process and working out the issues. So I'm sure it will not be the first time we kind of slightly modify things, but we appreciate your collaboration.
Well, I would pretty much guarantee that we will talk more before the 28th.
Yes.
So at this point, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Commissioner McKiernan. To either Judd or to Catherine, I have a very simple question. I think I heard it during the presentation, but I wanted to make it clear for those that may be watching. This proposal is for both commercial as well as residential properties, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's the only question I had. Just want to make sure we clarified it.
Thank you, Commissioner. As I said, I think that as we all, first of all, thank you so much for bringing this forward. It does flesh out a little bit further what we had first talked about last month, gives us some more ideas about how this would actually be executed, and that's really good. And so I think we'll probably end up having a few more discussions behind the scenes before we bring this to the committee for approval at our next meeting on the 28th. And so I would say that if no other member of the committee has questions or comments at this time, we will thank you for your presentation, and we will just get some discussions scheduled before the 28th so that we can follow up a little bit further.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I don't see any other members of the committee with comments or questions. Since this is the last item on the Neighborhood and Community Development agenda, we will adjourn that meeting, and I will turn this over to Commissioner Burrows for Economic Development and Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will wait just a few minutes, let everybody get settled in, grab your notes. And I believe I saw Jeff Bryant on earlier. Yes, he's here. Very good. Well, if we're ready, I'll go ahead and start the Economic Development Finance and Standing Committee this evening. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom, as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. And during the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical, given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. And due to the COVID-19 requirements, in-person public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. So with that, I will call the Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee to order. I want to welcome everyone to this meeting. At this time, I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Here.
Walters,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Townsend,
Here.
McKiernan,
Here.
Burrows.
Here. Thank you. We do have one revision to tonight's agenda. New item number 6 has been added, which is a resolution setting a public hearing date to consider a redevelopment project plan for the Epic Center redevelopment TIF district. So our first item up is approval of the minutes, and that's the first order of business. And I would entertain a motion.
Walters, motion to approve the minutes.
McKiernan, second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Walters. I believe a second was by Commissioner McKiernan. I will ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. So this evening, as I stated, we had 6 items. Item number 1 is a presentation on the second quarter investment report. At this time, I'll recognize Rick McKessick and Andrea Parra, and they will have comments on the presentation.
Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This is Andrea Parra, Deputy Treasurer. Rick is actually not in attendance, so it will be me. I believe Kathleen is here as well. How is everyone?
Fine, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Go ahead and put my screen up for you. Okay. First slide I'm going to go over is going to be just the investment summary overall, our portfolio. Investing, we obviously have the yield, it's 1.05, quarter 2. The days to maturity did drop. It was at 164 the last time I came to present. It's at 126 days. A lot of that comes into play. We have a lot of CDs that have matured that I will show you here in a couple slides. Portfolio, we're sitting with 63% in cash and then 37% in investments. Next slide is going to just be the metrics and compliance. I always like to point out a topic item that we want to always see in compliance is going to be the institutions and agencies remaining under that level. As it is, we have not gone out for bid, nor have we had a lot of activity at all. So therefore, all financial institutions are still under their limit. with the goal to always be there. As you probably have seen, me and Rick are very specific on that. Again, yield is 1.05. It was at 1.78 in quarter 1. Again, it did drop, but it still is above the target T-bill of 0.16. Interest is moving along. We are receiving that in every quarter. We are seeing a projection that should, I would say, probably be at or about or above the 2019 earnings. I'm doing well there. Next slide is going to be the overall issuer detail showing what types of investments we do have. We have about 19 million in going to be agencies, and then 81 million are going to be in the certificate of deposit CDs, and then the rest is going to be in our overnight, both operating in the health reserve. I want to point out kind of what transpired in quarter 2 was a lot of maturities. Of course, like I mentioned, we did not do any new purchases. The overnight repo has not changed. It is still that same rate as of today's investment activity, which 0.25. I'm still beating the target rate, today's certificate rate, and the treasury, which is actually at a negative rate as of today's investment activity, which is interesting.
Wow.
0.12 is what we would need to beat. We are beating that by all means. The repo is doing very well, staying strong for quarters, not going down any. Something to point out, we do have at the top there of those purchases, or I'm sorry, the maturities, that we have a few of our local emphasis certificate of deposit that matured. We have gone right back into that certificate process, certifying all the local banks in the community the best we could. Due to the pandemic, we weren't physically on site, boots on the ground to go meet everyone again. We did manage to recertify 11 of, I believe, the 13 financial institutions here in the county. We did make the decision to not do an actual small CD due to the rate they were willing to offer. It wasn't financially impactful for both us or them. So we will eventually get back to that portion of it, that 1 year under the FDIC rule rate. Not going to close that book, but we may just have to keep watching and see if both their institution and ours can make that happen later on in the year. Last but not least is just kind of the cash fund category, which is the last slide we like to present. Sorry, flipping my notes. This is the first time me presenting. I apologize. It may be a little stiff. Slides very specific. Want to just mention this is where our portfolio and all the money is going to be sitting based on type of fund. As you see on the right side, my right side, the bluer color, it looks to appear that that's a lot of money earmarked. Unfortunately, that is not going to be most of the spending money. That's 70% of items that are sitting in funds that are either untouchable, grant funded items, or earmarked for projects we don't have just sitting as spendable money. Wanted to just point out the general fund at 19% is about the only amount here, city county funds, that we could truly use, which comes to about 50 million that are investable or spending items. And last but not least, just want to mention that the overall change here is going to be probably pretty similar. If you were comparing it to last quarter, it's very obvious that, the pandemic has changed a lot and we didn't have a lot of changes. So this was pretty easy for me to update. With that being said, I like to cut to the chase. I don't have much else to present. It's a pretty easy quarter for me. Does anyone have any questions for me or comments or anything that I could address?
Any questions or comments, committee? I don't believe, oh, I do see a hands. I see Brian McKiernan, Commissioner McKiernan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andrea, I just want to say, don't apologize. I love the presentation. You put a lot of facts in there and you took us right to the heart of the matter. I think that overall, this is a good report. As you said, it's about the best we could hope for given the circumstances around us. So I appreciate the information and the update. Well done.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
I'll be the mean guy to Commissioner McKiernan's good guy. I think I understand that the reason why we received the report so late, we're in the second month of the third quarter right now, I believe.
Right.
What would be the expected turnaround for these reports if we were not in the pandemic? I guess that's probably the best way I can ask that question.
My goal is to always be in front of you within 30 days of the quarter ending at the very latest.
Very good. And I understand that, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that for those that are watching, we understand that we would have that normally under other circumstances a lot quicker. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I probably should have mentioned at the beginning. That's a good point to add. I apologize.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I do have a question, Andrea. The 19% in general fund, those reserves, that is our emergency reserves as well as our standard reserves?
I'm not 100% sure on that answer. I don't know if Kathleen is able to maybe approach that question better than I.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all reserves in the general funds, both operating reserves of 2 months of expenditures plus any emergency reserves.
Okay. The 19% seems a little better than what we had looked at in the second quarter, if I remember correctly. That's why I was asking. The 19% looks like a larger number, so I wanted to bring that to the attention of the committee.
Well, yeah. So keep in mind that we collect roughly almost 90% of all property tax at the first 6 months of the year. So that's why general fund cash is higher in the first half of the year than it is in the later half.
Thank you, Kathleen. Andrea, thank you and staff for the continued work that you do under the most trying of conditions. This report is not a bad report. We understand the challenges that staff and many of us are dealing with on an ongoing daily basis, but I sincerely appreciate the report, and it's not bad news.
We are watching it closely. I can guarantee you that.
And it's quite obvious. Thank you so very much for your presentation.
My pleasure. You all have a great evening.
Thank you. Committee, that was for information only. We will be taking no action on this information. So we will move on to item number 2, which is consists of multiple actions regarding the urban U.S. retail. And at this particular time, I'd like to ask Catherine Carter if she's still with us to present this item. Ms. Carter?
Okay. Hi, Catherine Carter.
There we go.
Director of Economic Development. I was so focused on sharing my screen, I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you all very much. This is a really exciting project. It's a $403 million distribution and fulfillment center and office project for the company Urban. And this is one that we received through, it was a competitive competition really from the Kansas City Area Development Corporation sent it to us, and we were looking, they were looking at a number of different areas of the country as well as different cities within our region. So we're really quite happy that they chose us. So we'll get into exactly what the project is, but just kind of as we're going through it, just want to bring to your attention the 3 items that will require your vote at the end. One is a resolution of intent to issue bonds. The next is an ordinance for the bond purchase agreement. And then the final is an ordinance releasing the property from the Star District. So with that, I am actually going to turn it over to David Zeal, who's Chief Development Officer with Urban. If he has been brought up to presenter mode, and he'll tell you a little more about the company.
Catherine, it's Rocky. What was the name again?
Sorry, David Zeal.
I do not see a David Zeal
He was
in
on
the attendees list.
earlier.
Oh, he's got his hand up. There he is.
There he is. Okay.
Welcome, Mr. Zeal. Is he still muted?
Hang on.
There he is.
Welcome, Mr. Zeal.
We are live. Did I make it?
Yes, you're good.
Well, first of all, thank you to extending the invitation to all the commissioners. Pleasure to meet you. Catherine, first off, thank you for all your support of Urban and your help getting to this point. So I want to compliment her on her diligence and collaboration. Our project, I want to just take a brief moment to take you through it. I've been working on the project. I'm the Chief Development Officer, Dave Zeal from Urban Outfitters. Handle the development internationally. Biggest in these times, the biggest component of our business is the direct-to-consumer e-commerce business, as well as the continued support of all of our bricks and mortar establishments throughout the world from a retail perspective. And over 2 years, we defined a strategy. Believe it or not, we're an East Coast born company, commissioners. And when you start somewhere, you implement your strategies there. And so our fulfillment has been generally East Coast predominant, and then to the West Coast. And that happens through essentially the business itself as your business grows. But as we've grown as a company, the master strategy has been for our groups to look at where we feel our long-term continued distribution development should be, where our multiple unit growth and multiple facility growth could be. And it happened with a great team of logistics headed by Calvin Hollinger, our COO, and his team, Omar Tovar, who runs logistics. We narrowed it down to the KCK region. I spent the better part of a year and a half working through both the great state of Kansas and the state of Missouri with multiple developers, Governor Kelly, who I'm very much fond of, and the entire political arena in Missouri as well. We narrowed it down to 6 finalist sites, 3 at each state. Just giving you guys a little bit of backdrop here on the decision making and the amount of effort and time put into it. Had a fantastic opportunity with Hillwood Properties, NASCAR, one of your partners, and the site at the NASCAR Speedway, the UG site, became one of the 6 finalists. Working through multiple months, I spent so much time. I look forward to meeting all of you as well. Spent a lot of time in the KCK region, and really proud to let you know that your team, your economic development team, the leadership of the UG, Wyandotte County, really worked hard. And I felt, and I'll speak for all of Urban, I felt a real compassion and trust in your overall leadership. You couple that with David Tolan and Governor Kelly at the state level, and your community. And I want to point that out. The community, the workforce, everything felt right in Kansas for Urban Outfitters. And this is not a single project for us. We made it clear that we're not going to play an over the river, over the river scenario where we might go there or go here. We were looking for a home, and we found that in Kansas, and I'm honored to say we believe we found it with you guys and your local community. So we made the decision to select the Speedway site, and tonight I'm here to talk a little bit about the project in support of Catherine's efforts and your overall team's efforts, the entire community. We're proud to call this home. I know Governor Kelly and Jose, one of her folks, is on the line tonight, and we're extremely excited to plant a stake and be a long-term partner in your community, long-term partner with your schools, long-term partner with improving transportation, being innovative on solutions such as daycare, healthcare. Urban I won't say we're not a group that you see come to town that builds multiple distribution centers. This becomes the linchpin. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. This is the largest facility. It's an omni-channel facility. And so the East Coast and West Coast kind of take a back seat. And Kansas becomes the hub of our overall operations. And I would like to point out that we're immensely excited about future opportunities of different segments of our business to work with Kansas State and the University of Kansas and the other schools, a powerful school state, and opportunities for future employment and innovation that we can potentially bring to the region. And I actually think that was the impetus of my initial conversations with Governor Kelly, and of course all of your leadership. Our building is a state-of-the-art building. It's going to be around 70 feet tall. It utilizes a new, very automated system, materials handling system, and it's a shuttle and crane system. We're quite excited about it. It's new technology to bring into our operation. Some other folks in utilize this type of technology, but really a very substantial investment. But the building itself, roughly about 800 and I think it's going to land at 886,000 square feet on floor plate. Multiple mezzanines puts it at about $1.5 million plus some change in operating square footage. Catherine, who and my attorney Dave Francais is on the phone. Obviously, we come in with our job predictions, and it's all I can tell the commissioners here is every time I've done this in our two larger facilities, this would become our largest and be the linchpin kind of to the overall strategy. We far surpassed our numbers both on capital investment and employment. We're very much, it's an interesting mix of employment to tell you on the ERT. It's showing 833,000 square feet there, but it's a mix. It's a very big mix of white collar and standard, what we would look at as Catherine's pointed out here, the part-time jobs and the office related jobs, as well as standard warehousing jobs. We are excited to partner with Hillwood. The land acquisition is with NASCAR as they own the majority of the land in that remote area near the track. Very excited to work with both those partners. And Hillwood's doing a spectacular job working with the UG and really a collaborative team wanting to bring these jobs and this particular project. This is again, it's a start to many additional commitments we feel we can make to your community as well as broader and in the state of Kansas, and very excited to do it. So the investment is candidly, I'd like to put it in perspective. You know, the investment here is monumental for Urban. It's a massive strategic play for a company, and you know we're just off an earnings call, and you can look at the revenue. This is a substantial investment in the future for our company, and at 403 million combined property, building, and materials handling equipment. We're obviously very strategic in that decision, and we're really it shows the real cornerstone that this operation will become for Urban over the many years. It will again be a spot that we want to bring our culture, and our culture is about people. Our culture is about education. Our culture is about being a partner in the community. We're a business, indeed, but we're a business that looks to have long-term partnerships in the communities that we select whether it's a retail store or a distribution center. This is our commitment to your community. Our commitment to the state of Kansas is very sincere, and we're extremely proud. There were many days I didn't know where we'd land this facility, and personally, I can tell you I couldn't be happier about where we are, hopefully, and looking forward to residing. So it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I'll turn it back over to Catherine. I'm open to any questions, of course, as she proceeds through this, and I appreciate your time. Without question, I look forward to a long-term partnership with the community, the school district, all of you. And I will end saying that Andrea was not stiff in her presentation earlier. I think she did a fine job.
Great. Thank you, Dave. So a couple things I just want to highlight again that Dave mentioned. One thing that attracted us to this company and made us fight so hard to win this project is the fact that they are so community oriented. That is not the case with a lot of companies that we've seen, kind of come and go. But we're really impressed by the way, and I'll get into a bit more about kind of childcare and transit, but they clearly treat their employees well and the right way and want to be a part of our community, which, just makes us feel even better about, bringing them in. So I do want to point out of the full-time jobs in the distribution center, we're looking at a starting salary of $18 per hour. This will be a great thing for our community in that it actually will continue to push what that kind of starting salary is for these type of jobs. We've got a number now that are in the kind of $14, $15 range. So we're hoping that this will just continue to push that and be better for our workforce here. Just a note on this site plan, this is still in flux, but this kind of gives you a sense of the location. So this is State Avenue and Speedway Boulevard, or 118th. So this is going to be a really interesting corner to watch as you will have the American Royal across the street and potentially Bonner crossings on the other side. So a lot'll change here in the next couple years at this corner. Now to get into the actual incentive proposal. So what we are proposing tonight is industrial revenue bonds. So to do $403 million in industrial revenue bonds. Just a reminder for those watching, basically how an industrial revenue bond works. That is not money that the unified government is fronting, is bonding. None of that. The unified government is not on the hook for this money at all. What happens is that the company purchases the bonds kind of in the name of the unified government to that allows them to get a tax abatement. So basically what it ends up being is 100% tax abatement, and then we add in a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of tax, to make the abatement the number that we like. So I do say 75% abatement. It's technically 100% with a 25% pilot, but for simplicity's sake, calling it a 75% abatement over 10 years. Another thing is 10 years is the maximum. So starting in year 11, they'll be paying full property taxes. So to go over a little bit about how we got to that 75%, we started with the 45% base, which is part of the unified government's policy. Then because this is such a significant investment, they received an investment bonus. And then something, two items that we're really excited about. One is their stated goal to do everything they can to hire 35% of Wyandotte County residents as their employees. So they are getting set up with workforce partnership, and we're trying to create those ways that we can really make sure that they are able to fulfill this goal. And then additionally, the MBE, WB, LBE commitment, so they are working towards those goals. So what that ends up looking like is about a $13.7 million abatement over 10 years. So that's total. During those 10 years, what the unified government and in some cases, some of the other taxing jurisdictions will be paid is about 6.5 million. And you may say, wait a second, that's more than 25%. So how that comes up is there's the 25% pilot, and then there's the base land tax, and then 8 mils that the school district always gets, so that those can't be abated. We did a cost benefit analysis, and every one of the taxing jurisdictions came out with a significant positive return on investment, which is exactly what we try to see with every project. You know, to go back a bit to how this is kind of a different company and their the way that they are community oriented and some of those innovative solutions. I will say that between Urban Outfitters and the state, the Department of Commerce team, YEDC, and the unified government, we really try to kind of think outside the box to make sure that the stated goals of the company were hit, and we were able to figure out ways to make those a reality. So 2 of the main ones are childcare and transit, that were very clear that those were important to the company for the location that they chose. For childcare, there's not only commitment from Urban Outfitters, but also some investment by the state. They're looking at tentatively putting a childcare center around Indian Springs. The reason for that is it's very centrally located, already a transit hub, and then we would take create an express route from Indian Springs directly to the urban building. So that would make sure that we could really kind of tailor that to their you know, shifts and all of that to make sure that we're covering everything. And the way that we are making the transit work, the state was very generous with kind of an initial startup costs of 1.5 million. And then again, kind of thinking outside the box, Urban has decided that they are okay with being having a property tax assessment. So they are adding to their property tax. So this is in addition to the 25% pilot that we mentioned earlier. This would be about $300,000 annually that would actually operate the express line. So with all of these, we feel like this is a really exciting project, and I can go into any more detail in anything and answer any questions. Thanks.
Committee members, any questions? Commissioner Bryant, I'm sorry, Jeff Bryant, sorry.
Yeah, I just have a couple. Number one, I'm very happy to see that they are interested in trying to employ 35% at least from Wyandotte County residents. That's just definitely a bonus. My only questions would be, is this primarily going to be an e-commerce site?
I'll jump back on there, Commissioner. It's not, it's the linchpin. So it's an omni-channel site. So it will not only be our largest e-commerce site, it will be the largest fulfillment location for all of our retail segment.
Okay.
And our wholesale. So omni meaning this really, I guess the best way for me to explain it easily is to say, everything that used to be primary is now secondary. This becomes the, if you will, the heart of our network, and everything else is an artery of the network, which kind of really starts to explain that if this is the heart of the network, that there will be associated potential other projects that could come into play here to support, you know, the centralization of our primary focus in the state of Kansas and in your community.
Okay, will this be a 24/7 operation?
It will be, sir. Not on inception, but as it grows, you'll see the shifting requirements. Working with the ATA and the state and your transit group has been phenomenal. The local transit group within your your community. It will ramp over time. Obviously, retail peak season is a critical thing. So you'll see the heavy temporary utilization of labor, which is always good in any marketplace during that peak season. But yes, it ultimately will go to 24/7.
Okay, and I noticed in the drawing that there was space for an additional 300,000 square feet. I'm assuming an expansion in the future. Is it possible that the corporate office would move to this site?
Our corporate office, I'm proud to say, I've resurrected multiple buildings in the historic Navy Yard in Philadelphia, which is our North American headquarters. That expansion is dual purpose. It could be for an expansion of this facility, an ancillary new business concept and fulfillment from that expansion potential on this site. And I've had several conversations with different leadership about what are the opportunities in the future, not just on this site, but on other sites to continue to support our corporate initiatives as well as our distribution initiatives. So I think the big decision for urban is I exhausted myself finding the home, and finding the home is just something I take very seriously. And we know we found it. We know we found it in the state of Kansas. We know that the primary component is in your community, and we are hopeful that we continue to expand in your community and elsewhere in the state to support anywhere our business will go.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Burrows. To Mr. Zeal, I want to say thank you all. Thank you to Urban for selecting Kansas City, Kansas and Wyandotte County for this wonderful project. As community leaders, we're often on the negative side of comments, and it's just refreshing to hear someone from outside of our community to come in and to say positive things and to talk about how our community is structured here. I believe it's a wonderful community to be a part of. I'm glad that you all made that decision. And to Catherine, kudos as well to your staff for making this process easier for them as they came in, and to be that face for us as this project came to bear. I'm looking at the MBE, WBE, and LBE percentages. Can you kind of break those out for me, Catherine, so that we can unpack that a little bit?
Sure. Let me pull up the development agreement. Give me 2 seconds. So, I mean, we've basically used our traditional goals for this project. I should have them memorized by now, but I don't.
So should I.
Okay, I am not finding them.
That's fine. It's what
There are our typical goals.
Thank you.
Okay. The second question. Somebody else? Go ahead, Commissioner Burrows.
I was just going to say, if that's information she can get to you, your next question, I'm sure, is looming. So I just go right ahead, Commissioner.
So the first of all, the 35% Wyandotte County goal is, I think, awesome. Just from projects that we've had in the past, to hit that 35%, we worked really hard. So I'm assuming that we're going to do the same amount of effort with our community partners to reach that goal. So I guess that's more of a statement. The questions that I had to go with regard their site is around the Indian Springs. It's not going to be in conjunction with the existing project that we're looking at for Indian Springs.
Commissioner Johnson, you're really breaking up. It's very difficult to follow your.
At this juncture, right? Is that around the exterior part now? Hopefully.
Yeah, so
My question is regarding the child
yeah.
care. Yeah, the child care piece. What are we looking at specific sites?
I think, yeah. Oh, Dave.
Around Indian Spring for that potential site to be?
Yeah, Commissioner Johnson, I'll let Catherine roll in there, but let me see. We just got off an earnings call, so I think I can answer. We always say one question, but I think I can get 6 down, no problem. The first thing I would tell you is I want to make it clear that the number one priority for 2 years I walked in to the KCK region with is the number one thing for urban was the community, was the employee base. And it was our number one priority, not incentives, not development cost. It was finding the community leadership like yourselves that would support our initiative, but we had the workforce to have a long, almost permanent standing relationship in your community. So it was a great point by you, and I wanted to point that out. It was our number one priority. As it pertains to this site, a majority of our site is a little bit up front towards, I call it an expressway. Excuse me if I call it the wrong thing, but closer to the highway. Definitely overflow parking from the track was in there, and we'll work around that. We will have an agreement with NASCAR on race day to mitigate our own traffic concerns and theirs, but they felt the need in their multiple site arrangements with Hillwood with the surplus land that was the appropriate plot, and we felt the same. So those are the two I can answer for you because you were breaking up, but is there anything else that I should answer, or Catherine?
Well, my question was, what have we identified a site for the child care that was around?
So, and that's the most important thing. Thank you for giving me the reminder there. I came in with Governor Kelly, and I'm going to give her credit. Education is a huge initiative of her and Secretary Toland's agenda, and it's also urban's biggest agenda, supporting education and our employee base. And that being said, I will tell you that what we wanted to do is we wanted to put ourselves in position to, when we picked this site in the community we picked it, that it wasn't necessarily, it could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about having a facility at our facility. It was about, is there an opportunity in that community to better connect transportation, the transportation component, as well as the daycare component, and better multiple business, better your community? And my answer is, that's what we're going to do. So it's kind of up to you guys. We could put it at our facility, but I'm hopeful that if we can get to some level of normalcy here, which I know we're all hopeful for, I can come spend that time because it's very, very unusual when I don't get a chance to meet all of you, get a chance to meet the superintendent of schools, the school district, other community leaders. And I look forward to doing that. So my answer is really, really simple. My objective was to have a joint venture with the state of Kansas and the UG, and know that childcare in some location would be a benefit to your community and my community that's coming to your community. Did that answer it?
I did answer that question. Thank you. And the last one, and I'll be through with Commissioner Burrows, is the transit piece. Could you expound, either one of you expound on that, what that might look like in terms of $1.5 million of startup costs there?
I can expand on it, and then everybody else fill in the blanks. Very rare. How about I start it this way? I'm a believer in learning from your mistakes, and I've made a couple decisions where I didn't have all the right priorities in there, and one of them is transportation. These are large employee accounts. Our Our commitment is 35% Wyandotte. That's all documentation. We'll hire as many people from Wyandotte County that would like to work for Urban. Let me just be clear about that. That is better for us, and we will work with the UG and all the different organizations you mentioned to make that happen at the maximum levels, not for 1 year, for the length of the relationship, which is indefinite with this size of investment. So moving to the transportation piece, early on, I've made the mistake of not factoring those transportation components to help people from Wyandotte County or any county I'm at accessing the physical space, having the ability to come to an $18 an hour job, median start weight, and have that ability to come get that job, right? And it was really outside the box thinking, and I'll specifically on the UG side and the state side and the ATA. I think the very, very refreshing leadership at the ATA. Different perspective than most transportation authorities I've had, I've dealt with. So to put it together, your local group, we had a conference call 2 weeks ago. We really worked on the centralization of the access to the site, and then we set up multiple conference calls in the upcoming future to talk about routing and so forth. But the initiation of the CID, I think I called that right, Catherine. If I didn't, fix me. But the CID component was Urban wanted to have that in place with the UG. It was really outside the box thinking by Catherine and the team. And we want to pay that tax because we know that transportation benefit is not only for Urban, it's for the associated development that will continue to occur in that you know, that approximate region there. So defining the hours, I don't think it's just going to be about Urban. I know Urban, because of the state backing and the UG's backing here, is a priority in that discussion. But Commissioner Johnson, we're going to have multiple discussions with your teams locally, move forward on ridership, size of vessel, how to start the program, and even if the program starts at a lesser value as development continues. And Urban is committed to continue to discuss additional funding with fellow partners that develop in the area as well, to continue to extend that level or that capacity of transportation in the future.
Right. Well, you've more than answered my questions, and you've hit on all the points that I would ask in any development thing. I think Catherine and I've had enough conversations. She knows those things are important to me, and you've nailed every one of them. Again, I want to extend the welcome to you all, to Urban. We're glad to have you here, and we have high expectations. Thanks so much.
Very, very welcome. Very, very welcome.
Next, I have Commissioner McKiernan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Zeal, very briefly, welcome to you and to your company. We are thrilled to have you in our community. I strongly support this project. And I just want to say that it looks to me, as it's been presented, that this project will have positive, tangible benefits for both your company and our community. So we certainly welcome you here.
I appreciate that very much, and Urban extends the same to all of you. Thank you. You know, welcoming goes both ways. Thank you for welcoming us. So
next, I have Commissioner Walters.
Yes, I would also like to add my welcome to you, Mr. Zeal. Thank you for choosing Wyandotte County for the location for this facility. It's very impressive. Your presentation is very impressive, and I think we're all looking for a great partnership. With that, I have a question of staff. If I were interested in making a motion, can it be one motion, or does it have to be 5 separate motions?
I believe it's actually 3 separate motions. Yeah, the resolution of intent, the ordinance for the bond purchase agreement, and then the ordinance releasing the STAR property from the STAR area.
The development agreement and IRB bond ordinance is not?
So the development agreement is actually part of the bond purchase agreement. So
okay, well,
in there.
With that, I would like to make a series of motions. First, I'd like to move that we approve the IRB resolution of intent.
Commissioner Johnson, second.
Gentlemen, thank you. Before we do that, I do have a few more hands up, and I do want to ensure that if there's anyone that has of the public that wants to speak to this, that they have a chance to do so. I know we're anxious to see this project move forward, but I do want to allow those others an opportunity to speak. Commissioner Townsend. Is she muted? Can we tell if she's muted?
I'm asking her to unmute. There she goes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you again, Commissioner Burrows, Chairman. To Mr. Zeal, I want to add my thanks and appreciation. And your presentation tonight shows what having a live individual bring forth a project they obviously feel so passionate about. I mean, what you presented tonight certainly put a different perspective on what I read. I am so glad that the city Brotherly Love is sending a corporate representative here to the land of Oz. I did the reverse several years ago. I see Philadelphia as another home. I did my undergraduate there at a time when most people said, Kansas, where is that? Let alone Kansas City, Kansas. So I'm glad Urban Outfitters knows where it is and is looking forward to a long-term partnership with us. Thank you for hitting on the head 2 stumbling blocks that are of major concern to many people who are looking for jobs, and that's how do I get to work and what's going to happen with the young people in my family who need to be educated and taken care of. So again, welcome to the land of Oz. I still love the city of Brotherly Love. Look forward to a long and mutually beneficial partnership. Thank you.
I don't think I could get a better welcome than that one right there. That's good, and we're excited. We're born in Philadelphia. We love Philadelphia. We love our extension of our new home in Kansas, and I will also tell you that I think it's important. For me personally, I really appreciate that you see my passion in it. I've been with the company a long time, and our success is kind of as a embodied personal thing. It certainly isn't a paycheck. It's a great company with a great culture, going through tough times like anybody else right now. But that being said, Commissioner, I appreciate all of your words, and I do want the group to know that this is very, very difficult for me because I've usually, again, I want to emphasize this. It's very important for me to have an urban have the long-term relationship. You guys are bringing us to your community. You're offering incentives, and the important thing for us is for you to know that we're aware of that. We're respectful of that. It helps us start an operation, but more importantly, for me not to have had the time with you and the school districts and the things of that nature. Your faith in picking the right partner. Sometimes you have to have a little faith, and I think you're making a great decision. And I just can't wait to meet all of you and meet the right people and get a chance to build that relationship long term, as you suggested. We really are looking forward to it.
Give my regards to Billy Penn and 36 and Chestnut.
You got it. You got it.
I see no more hands. Staff, Carol, do we have any public comment?
No comments from the public were received.
Thank you. Mr. Zeal, I too want to express my tremendous gratitude for you identifying Wyandotte County as a partner. I think this sets the stage for what a partnership between the state, local, private investors and a community stepping forward collectively on what you stated, trust. I think those are big steps for a major economic development project, especially one of this magnitude. And I sincerely appreciate your trust in us as a community. And we do look forward to this partnership and to much success for your development, and not only for your organization, but for our community. So thank you.
Very, very welcome, Commissioner. Very welcome.
And I'm sure a number of us look forward to meeting you personally. So with that, I want to get back to the motion and the second proposed by Commissioner Walters. And I would ask staff to repeat that motion if we may.
The motion was to approve the industrial revenue bond resolution of intent.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Comments? I would ask roll, clerk to please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you. Next item up is the, I believe we have the third item, which is the ordinance to remove the land, or is it the bond ordinance? I'm trying to see how this is laid out for me.
Chairman, this is Walters. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the bond purchase agreement.
Johnson, second.
Thank
Johnson.
you. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah. Committee, there's been a motion and a second to approve the bond purchase agreement. With that, I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. Our last motion would deal with the ordinance to remove the land from the Star Bond District. And with that, I would entertain a motion.
Commissioner, Walters here. I'd like to move that we adopt the ordinance releasing the property from the TIF Star Bond District.
Johnson, second.
There has been a motion by Commissioner Walters and Commissioner Johnson second. I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. I believe that takes care of our urban portion of our agenda this evening. Is that correct, staff?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, committee, and Mr. Zeal and Catherine, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to hear about this exciting new development. But Catherine, you're going nowhere because you're up next. Item number 3 is the home
Thank you.
field.
Thank you.
Our pleasure, Mr. Zeal. Item number 3 is Catherine, it's the home field. So please, you're up again.
Thank you very much, Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. So last month we heard Rob Heineman came and gave kind of a brief overview of what we could expect, kind of little teaser to get everyone excited. So hopefully that worked, and today we're going to be building upon that. Mr. Heineman will give another kind of overview of the project, and then we'll get into some of the terms, kind of the actual project deal points. You should all see the term sheet. It's on the agenda, and that, while not needing necessarily a formal vote, we would like to know kind of get your blessing, so to speak, to move forward. And then we would start with the putting the development agreement, et cetera, together. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Heineman.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Commission. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Appreciate you taking the opportunity to spend time with me again tonight. I liked the opportunity we had a couple weeks ago going over this. I'll do kind of a recap, I guess, of the development total. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and then obviously Catherine will get into some of the details of the sheet. But you know, the project here that we're describing obviously encompasses the former Schlitterbahn site. We have 230 acres under contract from the Henry family, which includes all these numbered parcels that you can see, you know, kind of all over the place here. Our intention on this site is to develop kind of the premier amateur sports resort, we believe, in the Midwest. And, you know, home field, as I mentioned to you a couple weeks ago, we're building a business where we believe we can take the youth sports industry, which is a $20 billion industry, growing at a faster rate than any of the professional sports leagues in the country, on its way to kind of a $50 billion industry in the next 5 to 7 years, and really kind of reimagine it. It typically is done in buildings that are somewhat substandard. Those of us that have had kids and taken them to many of those buildings, we oftentimes spend an hour to an hour and a half out in the car, you know, kind of spending time on our phone, passing the time, hoping that practice ends sooner rather than later. And we really think that we can kind of change that paradigm in sports. And we're taking our cues from the Topgolf concept, if you're familiar with Topgolf. And really what they did is they took a $10 bucket of balls at the driving range and put it in a beautiful building, utilized great technology, great data capture, good food and beverage and entertainment, and turned that into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. And we believe home field can do that very same thing for amateur sports. We're lucky enough here that, you know, the Schlitterbahn site, obviously we're all well aware of kind of the tragedy that occurred here. But what hasn't ever changed is the potential that this site has. It's got wonderful access, it's got wonderful visibility, and we really believe using home field as the catalyst for this site, we can bring to the site the potential that we all once saw in it. And you know, the thing that I can tell you is, while home field has progressed for us very quickly, one of the things that we've just been very surprised and pleasantly surprised about is the momentum that we have on this site with other uses. So obviously our intent here is to create a very large mixed use destination. And in addition to all the home field attractions, obviously, which are committed as part of phase 1, we have letters of intent with other destination retailers, with auto dealers, with a 200+ room hotel, with a large multifamily developer, with a luxury RV park operator. And then we're talking, you know, very in depth right now with various other neighborhood retail, things like convenience stores, grocery, you know, other ancillary uses. So, you know, our intention is that the home field aspects of this would open in, you know, late spring, early summer of 2022. And I would think that accompanying kind of our opening in early 22, I think we should have a handful of other openings. So when you talk about a project, obviously many times you hear shovel ready, and what I can tell you is this one absolutely is that. So, you know, the nice thing about this, I've had the privilege of being involved in 2 other Starbond developments with you out in this area, obviously Children's Mercy Park and the Compass US Soccer Center. And, you know, we as a group, the state, the city, and the developer here have spent far more time going through the details of the term sheet itself, how private investment becomes a very large component of what we're doing. And because of that, it's giving us as the developer the time to go out and work a lot of these other deals that I just mentioned, such that this isn't just a vision that we have. This is really something that we will be in the ground building various components of this in earnest all throughout calendar year 2021. So we're excited about that. You know, one of the things I do want to mention to you, I'm very excited to be talking about Kansas City, Kansas and Wyandotte County tonight. I do want to just quickly reference the Star wrote an article this weekend about, you know, some other developments here in Kansas City, in the Kansas City metropolitan area. This is the only development that we're working on as home field. This has a very distinct set of shareholders. Our shareholders are not involved in any of those other developments across town. And, you know, we're excited based on the fact that our track record with you has been that, you know, we've worked on 2 other great projects when I was a part of sporting that we think have, you know, created great vision out there. And we believe the vision has for the most part been fulfilled on those projects. I can tell you this project from kind of my seat, having been involved in all of those, you know, I believe we have the opportunity for this to be as good or better than even those 2 projects, which I think are wonderful, wonderful projects. So we're excited about this. We love the fact that this site, which is a great site, is going to be able to be brought to its full potential. And, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And or if Catherine, if you want to go into it, that'd be great.
Committee, any questions? I see no hands up.
I can move forward and go into some of the project details if you'd like.
Catherine, that'd be great. Thank you.
Great. So now I always get the fun job of going through the financial part of it, but I do want to start off by saying this is a really exciting thing. I mean, just between this project and the project we just heard, we're talking about over $700 million of investment in our community, which is just not something that I typically get to present to you all. So just kind of taking a moment and letting that sink in, kind of the scale that we're talking about is really quite stunning. So with that, I'll kind of get into some of the project details. I will say that we have spent, as Mr. Heineman mentioned, many months really getting this term sheet to a point where we felt that we were mitigating as much risk as possible from the local and state side, which is very important to us. And also just trying to find a way, STAR bonds are such a powerful tool, but they're only really powerful if you can really leverage them for other development and something bigger and better. And so we have really worked very hard. There's a large team that's been working on this, from finance to our attorneys. And so I think we are there. We feel really good from a staff's perspective about where we've ended up, and hope that you all agree. So I'll kind of go through some of the terms. So first, as was mentioned, part of this would be the purchase of the 230 acres that are currently owned by SBV. That's the Henrys who own Schlitterbahn. One of the really positives is that this will remove kind of the blighting influence that is Schlitterbahn. It's been closed now for over 2 years, and just sitting there is just not a great look for our community, especially when we have so many people coming through those highways right there, the interstates, to get to the Legends, to get to a sporting game. We really want to put forth our best side, and we think that this will do so, far, far better. So we're excited about that. Additionally, the Spear property, what it's known as the Spear property, which is the property, if you can see my cursor, just south of the soccer fields. So this is the location where the many of the baseball complex would be located. The home field team would be paying $3 million, which has been appraised, and we feel like that is a fair appraised market rate for that location. Then just super high level, we'll get into a little more detail here, but what we're really talking about, the project sources is 130 million of STAR bonds and just about 200 million of private capital. This will be done through 2 bond issuances. And really the main, one of the main points that we've been working through is there are outstanding water park bonds at this location, and making sure that, one of the primary goals for the unified government was to ensure that those get paid off, and those get paid off kind of first and foremost. So with our, very conservative projections, we feel like those, as we have it planned now and agreed to in these terms, would actually pay off both of those bond issuances early. So we're really happy about that. And then secondly, the second bond issuance for the home field would, really enable additional retail and future home field phases. Again, the kind of main thing, this is a STAR bond project, so making sure that there is a regional attraction and new retail is very important. And we think both of these will generate significant economic activity and job creation. So getting into a little more of the detail, and stop me if you have any questions. It gets a slightly complicated, but I tried to drill it down into kind of its most pure form. So kind of the first thing is that the state and the UG will retain all of the Menards sales tax. The Menards, that being the kind of newest retail out there, it's not captured currently. So that's really a big driver of this bond issuance. So both the state and the unified government will retain all of that, which is important right now as we're kind of working through COVID and making sure we're remaining stable. Then moving forward post July 2021, we're tying the state portion of Menards sales tax revenue to different home field performance milestones. So this is kind of our guarantee, so to speak, that home field does makes good on the proposal, which we have no doubt they will. But when you can get some additional revenue, that makes it all the more likely. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we've really focused on the outstanding water park bonds. And again, we're projecting an early payoff as a result of home field for both of those 2015A and B. So in terms of the actual home field star bond issuance, there would be two. One would be a first tranche. That would be $75 million. So it would be a 1-to-1 public-private kind of sharing ratio. This is really to ensure the core home field. So the home field, the indoor training center, the home field outdoor, as well as the baseball complex. That's really the focus of that first tranche. So that would allow for $150 million of development. The second tranche would be $55 million. And just to clarify, in that first tranche, that's both public and private. It's actually, well, they will likely be a private issuance, but star bonds. So just to clear that up. The 55 million would be a public issuance. And with that, kind of, since it would be for kind of the next phase, we're kind of moving the public-private cost sharing ratio a bit. So instead of 1-to-1, this is 1 to 2.15. So for every $1 of star bond revenue they would have to spend $2.15 in private costs. So, and again, for that really is the home field enhancements, land, additional development. So that would end up being about $180 million of development. So if you're taking the entire snapshot, you're looking at a 40-60 split. And as Mr. Heineman mentioned, this is kind of, as they're looking at it, kind of the bare minimum, and they're hoping certainly for even more development. So hopefully this is really just the minimum of that ratio. And then last but not least, I want to mention that as with all of our star bond projects, the UG will retain all the benefits from the property tax. So there's no abatement associated with this. They'll be paying their full property tax, as well as the special sales tax. So that's the EMS and the public safety neighborhood infrastructure. So that would go for the home field development as well as all the additional development. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Committee, any questions? Bear with me, Catherine. I'm trying to pull up my participant piece here.
Commissioner, I don't see any hands up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, now Commissioner Walters has his hand up now.
Yes, Commissioner Walters.
Sure. I just want to compliment the project. Rob, thanks for bringing this forward. Really looking forward to seeing it happen. Question for Catherine. I assume that the fact that we've gotten this far means that the state is pretty well agreeable to all the terms and conditions related to the star bonds issuance.
Yes, so we've been working with the Secretary of Commerce and his team throughout the whole process. So they'll certainly have their own approvals to go through, but yes, we're all in agreement with the terms.
Well, great. That's glad. I'm glad to hear that. And if you're taking a straw poll, I will vote yes, I really like this project and I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, before you get started, come here. Commissioner McKiernan had his hand up first. I apologize.
That's fine, no worries at all. Mr. Heineman, I want to say, like Commissioner Walters, I really think that this project has a lot of potential benefits for our area. And one of the things that I want to really emphasize to anyone who might be watching this presentation tonight and be interested in this is going to end up playing out just like we had the Star Bonds on the other side, on the west side of 435 with the Legends development, where although the sales tax will be going to pay off the development bonds, the property taxes will all continue to come in full every year to the unified government. And so there will be a tangible monetary benefit to us directly through the property taxes. And then hopefully there will be many other benefits that come to us through the use of these facilities after they're constructed and begin to be used. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Mr. McKiernan. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Burrows, Chair. First of all, I want to thank Catherine for taking time out to kind of walk me through this a few weeks ago. It was really beneficial, and therefore I don't have a whole lot of questions. I do again thank Mr. Heineman for this presentation and for coming into this. I think the question that I want to ask, I wasn't going to ask, but I think I want to ask is, or comment. Let me just make a comment. I think it's important for us to continue to see Western Wyandotte County continue to thrive. As an Eastern commissioner, sometimes persons in our district think that all of the development is exclusively happening in Western Wyandotte County. And though we can tangibly see this, it does have a tremendous amount of effect upon the eastern side, particularly as it relates to infrastructure and things of that nature. And that also allows us to leverage what is happening, the good things that are happening out in Western Wyandotte County, to begin to continue to build on the eastern side of that. So I want to make sure those that are watching this don't think that this is a one-sided equation. There are profound benefits. Again, sometimes it doesn't seem like it because we're talking about simple things as such as infrastructure and plumbing, and not plumbing, but sewers and things of that nature, and other things, curbs, sidewalks. And so I'm glad to see this going in, and appreciate you for making it clear that the first of all that the other Star Bonds will be paid off with this project, and that was very important. So thank you so much.
Commissioner, would you mind if I just had one response to that? One thing that I want you to know is community involvement is going to be very important for us around this building. And you can imagine that a building like this, for the most part, call it from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon in normal school times for children, is going to be pretty empty. And our intent would be to work very closely with the community and with the school districts around making sure that every student has access to this building. And our intention would be to run a very vibrant kind of in-school program out here, where we're doing not only kind of competition things, but also doing probably some STEM learning, particularly around things like nutrition and wellness, and making sure that everybody in the community has the opportunity to go touch this facility. So we'll make sure that we're very plugged in. So it's not just about Western Wyandotte, it's about the entire community. And it's about kind of all of our kids have the opportunity to come out here and experience.
Thank you, Mr. Heineman, for making that clear. I appreciate that. I think that helps us on the eastern side for us to understand that as well. So thank you so much.
Next, I have Mr. Bryant, BPU.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. So, Mr. Heineman, this is a very interesting scenario that I do like the idea that it will expedite the repayment of the Star Bonds from the previous project. Catherine, so I'm just wondering, so the transient tax, I'm assuming that it would be in place for like the RV park besides the hotel, and my guess is by looking at that, the multifamily would probably be like rental condos. Will the transient tax from all those still come into the UG, or will that be part of the repayment of the star bonds?
That is an excellent question that I don't know the answer to. So if any of the many attorneys or Kathleen is on and knows the answer to that, I would greatly appreciate it.
This is Patrick. Catherine, I'll have to look in that as well. I'm not sure.
I can answer.
Great.
Typically it would go to the star bonds. I mean, the transient guest tax is definitely goes to the historically as one star bonds.
Thanks, Rob.
I would really be interested when this does come back in front of us to see what the projected dollars that would come to the UG during the period of repayment for the star bonds would be versus how much will be going toward the repayment of the bonds.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And yeah, so I just received clarification. Rob is, as one would expect, correct that the transient guest tax would be part of that. And then I will mention that kind of our next step, as I referenced at the beginning, would be to come back to you all with an actual fully fleshed out development agreement. So you would expect to see all of that, and we'll make sure that some of the revenue projections and all of that is part of it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Next, I have Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Heineman. As one of the other commissioners whose constituency lies in the East, you touched upon something that I was, well, I don't want to say concerned about, but wanted to talk about, and you hit it on it already in response to Commissioner Johnson, and that is how this what looks like a tremendous plan for a variety of sports to be conducted in really top-notch settings, how individuals from any part of the community can access that. Could you talk some more about that? You talked earlier about the fact that youth league sports industry is booming. I think it was 20 million plus and growing. In the term sheet, they talk about a variety of sports outside of just baseball. You've got basketball, obstacle training, rope climbing, zip lining, lacrosse, soccer, swimming. Could you talk about the accessibility of what you plan in that area for any individuals, those who may be a part of a team organization or not?
Absolutely. So, the intent of this facility is that it obviously is multi-sport. So you touched on it. There'll be, especially inside, there'll be, kind of the hard courts. Obviously, you can imagine volleyball, basketball being in that area. We also will have turf. So it'll be soccer, lacrosse, 7v7 football. We'll also do a lot of sports performance training. So speed, strength, and agility training, things of that nature. Our intention with this building is that this allows every athlete to be the best athlete they can be. Doesn't mean that they're going to be the next Patrick Mahomes or they're necessarily going to be a casual athlete. It's anywhere across that spectrum. We believe, home field should provide an opportunity for that. Obviously the way that we'll do this, there will be kind of, membership. So we'll have members that play in clubs that are kind of attached to home field. There will also be clubs that'll come in and access our building that may not be home field clubs. They may be just existing clubs here in the area that access and come utilize our facilities. We'll also run leagues, we'll run events. So there will be different opportunities for, all different types of kids that come into this building. And then in addition to, obviously what we'll do around the membership approach, there'll also be scholarship approaches out here as well. So, every kid should have the ability for a pathway into home field. And, one of the things in youth sports that is a topic that's brought up very often, particularly around soccer, is the whole notion of pay to play. And some sports are just difficult to get access to because the price point is too high. That's something that, we do want to try to tackle head on in the home field ecosystem. Do want to have access for every kid in this community to have the ability to come play in this facility, whether that's on a team, in a league, or in an event. So it will be a very conscious objective of us to make sure that we allow as many people into this building as possible. You don't want to shut anybody out.
What about those activities that are less team oriented, for instance, say zip lining, rope climbing, obstacle course training? Could I come out there and through a membership or a pay for the day type of situation have access to those facilities?
Absolutely. Yeah, those will all be, kind of based on that sort of an approach. You won't necessarily have to be a member to do that. And, I already have talked with staff around there, obviously around any of those kind of membership, or what I would just kind of call on a, per event basis, there'll be discounts for Wyandotte County citizens. So we'll make sure that probably two things. Number one, when it comes to accessibility, they'll probably get a couple week head start on new programs that we roll out to sign up, and there'll be some sort of a discount. So those are cool aspects that we'll definitely be building into our programming.
Again, with respect to the more individualized activities, do you anticipate, say, a daily rate, say if you wanted to just come in and try one of those for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you come out to the ropes course, let's say that it's, and I don't have exact pricing, but let's say it's a $25 thing. If you're a Wyandotte County citizen, it's probably going to be a $15 thing. So we'll work and make sure that all those kind of, daily rate or daily accessibility tickets have some benefit to us.
Thank you. That's most important, I think, in getting to what Commissioner Johnson alluded to, and what I'm getting at, accessibility on some level, regardless of where you live in Wyandotte County. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for the question.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Heineman, thank you. I've had the privilege of viewing one of your facilities in southern Johnson County, and it's quite a unique approach you have, but I think it'll be a project in Wyandotte County that will continue to add to the synergy we have in western Wyandotte County. Your record of success speaks for itself. I'm excited about the continued growth of the project that you continue to put forward. Those are quality projects, and I look forward to the draw it will have not only for our community, but for your business model. I think the fact that you're investing the time and energy into our community that you have, I just want to say how much I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to have you in Wyandotte County and your continued investment in our community. And I do look forward to being there the day that you open the fields. I think it'll be a great opportunity to display our leisure-tainment district and now our playtainment that you've put forward. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone's comments. And look, we've had a wonderful partnership with you throughout the years. And I really do think, while this first phase, I think is really compelling, this is a lot of acreage. It's 230 acres. So our ability over the course of, call it the next 10 to 20 years to really create an unbelievable regional and national destination, I think is real. And it's going to be fun. I'll tell you, since we started talking about this, the amount of momentum that we've created with other, retailers and hospitality, we've got a little bit of a snowball going, and I think it can be a big snowball pretty quickly here.
Well, great. I know our community is in desperate need of a swimming pool and aquatic features in our community, and I know there has been a public outcry to have a swimming pool. I would hope that possibly a public pool could be one of those things that are considered in the park. I would also ask, there's a number of vacated buildings. I think the annex is still there. The old transportation building, I believe, is still on site. Are there plans to utilize those facilities, or to repurpose them, or to demolish them?
We have bids to demolish all those. So the day after we get this approved, we'll start tearing down those buildings and most of the vertical slides out at Schlitterbahn too. So you'll see a large demolition project start occurring, as soon as we kind of get this wrapped up.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments, committee? Seeing none, this is an action item. I see that we have to move forward this project. So I would entertain a motion.
Commissioner Burrows, this is CPU Board Member Bryant. It says it's for information only.
Right.
I do. Is that what you show? Mine doesn't show that, so I apologize. I show that a motion needs to be made. So if that's the case, then Rob, thank you very much for the information you shared. My sheet shows that it was an action item, so we'll move on if it's not an action item. Staff, is that correct? It's not an action item?
Yes, that's correct. So I think we're kind of giving a thumbs up, thumbs down. It sounded as I was doing the tally that it was kind of six votes to move forward. And so the next thing that we will come forward to you with is the development agreement that would be an action item.
Great, thank you. And they would give us an opportunity at that time to ask additional questions of Mr. Heineman. So staff, I apologize. My sheet shows a motion needs to be made, but we'll move on. Rob, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it as always.
Committee, that takes us to item number 4. It's consideration of the Bonner Springs Neighborhood Revitalization Property Tax Rebate, Plan number 6. Catherine, I believe you've had a long evening this evening, so once again.
Just getting started. No, this one I'm actually just introducing Amber McCullough, who's the Assistant City Manager of Bonner Springs. She'll give a brief presentation of the neighborhood revitalization plans for Bonner Springs that is up for its program renewal. So I will stop sharing my screen and let her take over.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on your meeting this evening. I have a quick presentation for our neighborhood revitalization program. This is our 6th plan. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. There we go. On July 27th, our City Council adopted a new neighborhood revitalization plan. And the next step is to present the information to all of our taxing jurisdictions and request support of the program through an interlocal agreement. We have presented to the school district, the community college, and finally, we're presenting to the county. As I said, this is our 6th plan. Our current plan is number 5. We started the NRP program in 1997, and our current program expires at the end of this year. This new Plan 6 will take effect January 1st, 2021. With plans 1 through 5, we did receive your jurisdiction's support through the interlocal agreement, and we're hopeful you'll continue to support the plan. What the neighborhood revitalization plan is a short-term property tax rebate to provide long-term increases to the property tax base through new development and rehabilitation. In the city, it's been a very transformative program. It has created some infill opportunities and rehabilitation opportunities through the older areas, and then we've had some success with new subdivisions. In the newer areas, we've had Cedar Springs, Cedar Ridge, and the Lee Valley subdivisions as part of this program. The financial impact of all of our NRPs, throughout all of our programs, we've had 607 properties utilize the program, with 539 of them now paying full taxes. In 2019, we had 18 properties complete the program and come back onto the tax rolls. Prior to the NRP program, the tax value of these 18 properties was $27,822. And now that they've completed the program and come back onto the tax rolls, they have a total tax value of over $92,000, which has been a $65,000 increase to the property tax base with just those 18 properties that came on in 2019. We have no changes in the eligibility for criteria for Plan 6. Both Plan 5 and Plan 6 allow single-family commercial and industrial projects, as well as multifamily duplex and senior housing tax credit projects as rental units. For new development, the minimum investment is $170,000 for single-family commercial or industrial projects, or $200,000 for duplex and multifamily projects. For a rehabilitation project, the project must increase the appraised value by a minimum of 5% for residential projects or 15% for commercial or industrial projects. The rebate amount for most of our projects is 75% of the increase to the tax value for 5 years, but for senior housing tax credit projects, it's 50% for 10 years. Part of the neighborhood revitalization program requires that taxes must be fully paid to the county prior to the participant receiving a rebate check. If the participant is 90+ days delinquent twice over the rebate period, they are dropped from the program and begin paying full taxes. All of the single family projects must be owner occupied and cannot be rented out during the rebate term. The area in blue is our current NRP 5 eligibility area. The only change we've made to Plan 6 was to reduce some of this area. As you can see in the next slide, I'll go ahead and bring up our proposed NRP Plan 6 area. Everything shown in red are areas eligible for NRP Plan 6. We dropped some of this area down here and then some area in the center, as the utilization there we didn't have much utilization, so we wanted to focus on the areas where we did have utilization. We retained the older areas, the downtown areas and the Lake of the Forest area, which could benefit from rehabilitation or infill development. And we removed the newer subdivision of Lee Valley, as it is 100% built out in phases 1 through 3. And there are no remaining lots in that development. We did add an area to the west of the Lee Valley subdivision in case that subdivision were to expand or if we were to gain another subdivision there. And then we left in some area to the north for future expansion. And then the Deerfield area, subdivision area, we also left in, or the area west of the Deerfield subdivision, we left in for infill and rehabilitation opportunities. Over the years, the NRP has been very successful. One of the benefits of the neighborhood revitalization plan is that you don't pay any tax dollars for this incentive. You continue to have the current, you continue to get the property tax rate that you currently have as a revenue. The rebate is only in the increment increase to the tax values. And even during the rebate term, you still receive 25 to 50% of that increase to the tax values during the rebate term. And then you realize the full increase to the property taxes at the end of the term. I'll answer any questions, be happy to answer any questions. I thank you again for allowing me to speak at your meeting this evening.
I show Commissioner Walters. Commissioner, you may be muted.
I'm sorry. I wanted to make a motion that we approve the interlocal agreement between the UG and Bonner Springs for the neighborhood revitalization plan.
Second.
There has been a motion, and who seconded it? I'm sorry, I was looking away.
McKiernan.
McKiernan, okay, as long as staff's able to pick that up. Amber, I want to thank you for your presentation. I know that the project has worked well in your community. Having been a former resident of the Bonner Springs community, I'm really just surprised at the amount of growth and the quality of housing and the revitalization I've seen within the community. So thank you for your presentation this evening. We do have a motion and a second. Or any other discussion? Any comments? Seeing none, I would ask for a roll call.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. I believe this may be the last portion on the agenda this evening. I do hope that is correct. I am really trying to follow my sheet here. We have a public hearing for the Neighborhood Revitalization Act plan. And so with that, once again, I show Catherine Carter.
Hello, I'm back. Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. We actually had something blue sheeted, so we've got 2 more items, but this is a real quick one. So this is a resolution calling for a public hearing on October 29th. Goes very well with what you just heard from Amber. We are also working on our, we call it a Neighborhood Revitalization Act plan. I don't know why we had the A, but, and so just kind of a quick kind of update. You all approved, kind of accepted the proposed changes back in June. Since then, Stephanie Moore in my office and Wendy Green with the attorney's office have gone and presented, just as Amber just did, to USD 500, 204, 202, and the community college. All have executed their interlocal agreements. Thus, we are back to this committee to move the process along so that we are ready to go when our current NRA plan expires at the end of the year, and have the new one with the changes proposed in action when we start 2021. So again, today is just setting the resolution to set the public hearing date that will go to the full commission on September 17th. And then October 29th, you'll get the whole presentation again, as well as the public hearing. And that's when you will vote on the actual NRA changes.
Great. Any questions or comments, committee? Commissioner McKiernan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we adopt the resolution and the interlocal agreements as presented.
Johnson, second.
There's a motion by Commissioner McKiernan, a second by Commissioner Johnson. Comments? Seeing none. Ask clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Point of clarification, I'm sorry I didn't get in sooner, but isn't this just setting a meeting or is we approving this?
This is to set a public hearing date.
Okay, aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. And as Catherine stated, we do have a blue sheeted item, and I do not have that bit of information with me this evening. So I would ask staff what that blue sheet item may be.
Sure. This is basically the same thing you just voted on. It's a resolution calling for a public hearing. Also on October 29th, it'll be a busy commission day, lots of hearings. This one would be to consider a Menards TIF project plan at 18th and I-35.
Okay. And that would be the October meeting?
Yes, October 29th.
Commissioner Walters.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt this public hearing date for this TIF public hearing.
McKiernan, second.
There has been a motion by Commissioner Walters, a second by Commissioner McKiernan. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. One more item.
That's everything for me. Thank you.
Staff, I do not have or have not been able to find the last item for discussion.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
it?
You
That
just
completes the agenda.
Okay. Great. Committee, thank you for your work this evening. Catherine, thank you for your patience with us. I sincerely look forward to the continued investment in our community, and I'm very proud of this committee for the work they've done. And you're to be commended, Catherine, for the stick-to-itiveness you put forward in these projects. So thank you very much, you and staff. Appreciate it. Your work is really much appreciated. With that, I believe we are adjourned.